नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांता स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। वागीशायश्च वदने लक्ष्मीर्यस्य च वक्षसि यस्य ते हृदये संवित् तं नृसिंहमहं भजे। एकेन चक्रमपरेण करेण शङ्खम् अन्येन सिन्धुतनयम् अवलम्ब्य तिष्ठन् वामेतरेण वरदाभयपद्मचिह्नम् लक्ष्मी नृसिंह मम देहि करावलम्बम्। उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नृसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं मृत्युं मृत्योर्नमाम्यहम्। प्रह्लाद नारद पराशर पुण्डरीका व्यासादि भागवत पुंगहरिनिवासा भक्तानुरुक्त परिपालन पारिजाता लक्ष्मी नृसिंह मम देहि करावलम्बम्। पादौ यदीयौ प्रथमा द्वितीयौ तृतीय तुर्यौ कथितौ यदूरो नाभिस्तदा पंचम एव षष्ठो भुजान्तरं दोर्युगलं ततन्यो कंठस्तु राजन्नवमो यदीयो मुखारविन्दं दशमं प्रफुल्लम्। एकादशो यस्य ललाटपट्टं शिरोऽपि तु द्वादश एव भाति तमादिदेवं करुणानिधानं तमालवर्णं सुहितावतारम्। अपार संसार समुद्र सेतुं भजामहे भागवत स्वरूपम्। भजामहे भागवत स्वरूपम्। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंकुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणाम्। Hare Krishna. So let us resume our study of 7th canto by briefly revising or discussing the overview of what we have discussed so far. So the 7th canto, it begins with the question by Parikshit Maharaj to Shukadeva Goswami. Although the Supreme Lord is equal to everyone and is everyone's well-wisher, why is he partial? And when Shukadeva Goswami is replying to Parikshit Maharaj, he quotes the incident wherein Shishupal was killed, and Maharaj Yudhishthir speaks to inquires from Narada Muni like this: how come Shishupal, who was extremely envious, achieved liberation? How did the eternal associates of the Supreme Lord Jaya and Vijaya happen to take birth in this material world? Who cursed them and why? And how did Hiranyakashipu become so inimical to his own son Prahlad? And how did Prahlad become a great devotee of the Supreme Lord? In the second chapter, we discussed how Hiranyakashipu wanted to avenge his brother's death in the hands of the Supreme Lord. And Hiranyakashipu's plan to kill the Supreme Lord and destroy the Brahminical culture. And Hiranyakashipu is consoling his grief-stricken mother and his relatives. And Hiranyakashipu quoting the story of King Suyagnya and how Yamaraj, in the form of a small boy, how he had come and how he had actually instructed the graving queens. And King Suyagna's mentioning about the Kulinga bird and the hunter. And in third chapter, we have seen how Hiranyakashipu began his austerities and what were the effects of those austerities. And demigods informing Brahma of Hiranyakashipu's intentions, and Brahma, he was struck with wonder and he went to Hiranyakashipu and he revitalizes his body, and then Hiranyakashipu prays for certain benedictions. But again, Brahma was very conditional. He told him that he could not become immortal, he could not occupy the position of the demigods, but other than that, Hiranyakashipu wanted everything else. And we had seen yesterday what Hiranyakashipu's what he had actually asked for. He had asked for so many benedictions, like he shouldn't be killed by any living entity created by Brahma. He should not be killed either in the land or on the sky. He should not be killed inside the house or outside the house. So all these benedictions he had asked because he wanted to secure himself. He wanted to secure himself. And this was all because of fear of the Supreme Lord. And again, this was because he was very inimical towards the Supreme Lord. He could not accept the Supreme Lord's supremacy. So this was the reason why Hiranyakashipu, although he performed many austerities, he was always fearful. He was always insecure. And he wanted to trick Lord Brahma. And we had seen the nature of envy and Hiranyakashipu's attitude and how he wanted to trick Lord Brahma and how he wanted to somehow or the other get certain benedictions, but still he was not happy. So today, in the fourth chapter, we will be seeing how Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the whole universe after being awarded with the benedictions by Brahma. So Brahma benedicts Hiranyakashipu, and then Hiranyakashipu literally conquers the entire universe. Except Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, everyone becomes very fearful of Hiranyakashipu. Everyone is scared of Hiranyakashipu and how he torments them. And we also see how Hiranyakashipu occupied Indra's residence and how opulent Indra's residence was, and how Hiranyakashipu is worshipped by everyone, and how he continues to remain a servant of his senses, and how all the universal rulers surrender to Lord Vishnu, unable to tolerate Hiranyakashipu, and how Lord's voice drives away all the fear of the demigods, and the glorious qualities of Prahlad Maharaj. Some of the sections we will be seeing today, some of the sections we will be seeing tomorrow. And how Hiranyakashipu torments his own son. So let us begin. Canto 7, Chapter 4. Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe. Shri Narada Uvacha Evam Vritasya Tadritir Hiranyakashipo Ratha Pradat Tapasa Prito Varams Tasya Sudurlabhan. So Narada Muni continues. He is speaking to Yudhishthir Maharaj. Lord Brahma was very much satisfied by Hiranyakashipu's austerities, which were difficult to perform. Therefore, when solicited for benedictions, he indeed granted them, although they were rarely to be achieved. Shri Brahma Vacha Tate me durlabha pumsam yan vranishe varan mama tathapi vitaram yanga varan yadyapi durlabhan. So Lord Brahma says, O Hiranyakashipu, these benedictions for which you have asked are difficult to obtain for most men. Nonetheless, my son, I shall grant them to you, although they are generally not available. So here we must understand what is the meaning of Durlabha. Durlabha means something which is very difficult to obtain. Not only difficult to obtain, something which is difficult to maintain also. So Hiranyakashipu wanted so many benedictions, Firstly, they were practically very, very difficult to obtain by any common man. But what to do? He had performed such extreme austerity, such severe austerity, that Brahma was obliged to give him some benedictions. Although Brahma categorically told him, Brahma told him very clearly in the beginning itself that he will not be able to give him death, or he will not be able to give him the position of demigods. Still, Brahma was obliged to give certain boons. But whatever he asked otherwise is also very difficult to obtain. That he shouldn't be killed by any person this way, that way. He shouldn't be killed by any weapon. He shouldn't be killed by any animal or any beast. So all these things are very difficult to obtain. And not only difficult to obtain, even after it is obtained, it is very difficult. What are the consequences of those benedictions? It is very difficult to maintain those benedictions. So such benedictions should never be sought. Now let us understand the nature of material benedictions, or the nature of material happiness or blessing. So Prabhupada says that material benedictions are not always exactly worthy of being called benedictions in the first place. Why? Because, as we discussed, if one possesses more and more material benediction, that benediction itself may become a curse. Now, why this happens? When one possesses more and more material facilities, material comforts, material benedictions, then what happens is, firstly, he becomes a servant of his senses. He will be so much absorbed in enjoying them. And secondly, he will be very anxious about how to maintain those comforts. Because one's material desires has no end practically. Practically speaking, the desire to gratify one's senses, the desire to gratify one's own senses, the desire to enjoy one's senses, there is no end for this desire at all. So, the more one may possess, even by good karma, if one is actually destined to possess more and more material benedictions, ultimately the nature of benedictions, the nature of material benedictions itself is that it makes one addicted to enjoying them. Because the material benedictions give pleasure to one's senses, we become a servant of the senses. The senses, we are controlled by the senses, and therefore we forget our real duty in life. And another thing, not only achieving the material benedictions, even maintaining the material benedictions takes a lot of endeavor. Achieving also takes a lot of endeavor, and maintaining also takes a lot of endeavor. For example, even anything small, any material benediction, let us assume, in order to get a seat in a very good university or in a very reputed institution, how much hard work does it take? It takes a lot of effort. So much of effort it takes. But is it that after that effort is taken, after one actually gets that, is it that he's completely happy? No. To maintain that, again it takes a lot of endeavor. So therefore, we never know that material benedict. It's not that material, one should not possess material opulence. It is not that material comfort should not be obtained. The thing is, if material benedictions are achieved beyond a certain limit, or if one desires material benedictions beyond a certain limit, if one desires to possess material comforts beyond a certain limit, or we can put it in another way, the more one wants material comforts, the more one is prone to sense gratification. And the more one is prone to sense gratification and material comforts, again he wants much more material comfort. There is no end to it actually. It is just like pouring oil in fire or pouring fuel in fire. There is no end to it. There is no end to sense gratification. So therefore, there is no end to the desire for material comfort. Similarly, what happens? It is not just possessing the material comfort. Maintaining the material opulence also takes a lot of endeavor. So therefore, one must understand what is the purpose of this life. Purpose of this life is to always remember Krishna, to go closer to the lotus feet of Krishna, to regain our eternal consciousness as an eternal servant of Krishna, to understand our position as an eternal servant of Krishna, and to act in that position, and thereby gradually regain our forgotten spiritual consciousness. So if one possesses more and more material benediction, it actually becomes a curse, which actually happened to Hiranyakashipu also. So achieving material opulence in this material world is difficult. It requires a great strength and endeavor, as we have been discussing. And not only achieving, even maintaining the material opulence requires great strength and endeavor. All of us must be having experience of this. The more we desire something material, the more endeavor and effort it takes, and the more endeavor and effort it takes to maintain it. And therefore what happens? One ends up in spending time without any purpose, just in taking care of the body. And one more thing, one becomes artificially puffed up with this material opulence. When one gets material opulence, there is a tendency for one to become so much puffed up. Anyway, these material opulences are temporary, but still one becomes so much proud of his material opulence, and therefore he becomes incapable of uttering the Lord's holy name very feelingly. So therefore he is not able to approach the lotus feet of the Lord, which is the purpose of our life. When one is not able to progress, when one is not able to endeavor towards worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, when one is not able to endeavor towards performing devotional service, then the whole purpose of life is lost. So therefore, Kunti Maharani prays like this in Bhagavatam. In the first canto, there are prayers of Queen Kunti. She prays, Janmaishwarya Shruta Shribhir Edamana Madapuman Naivarhatya Vidatum Vai Tvamakinchana Gocharam. So she prays to the Supreme Lord, oh my Lord. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself by respected parentage, by great opulence. Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shribhir. Janma, birth, Aishwarya, great opulence, Shruta, high education, and Shribhir, bodily beauty. Such a person who is on the path of material progress, or who is constantly addicted to material comforts, who is constantly addicted to gratifying his senses, such a person, although may approach you, cannot approach you feelingly. So therefore, Kunti Maharani, she says, let me not have any of these. Let me always have only the shelter of your lotus feet. So Lord Brahma informed Hiranyakashipu. So we see here that Hiranyakashipu was completely behind the material opulence. So Lord Brahma informs Hiranyakashipu here that although he was ready to offer to him whatever he had asked, he said that the result of the benedictions would be very difficult for Hiranyakashipu to maintain. For example, sometimes we have very unreasonable material desires. We want to purchase this, that. It's not wrong to purchase, but one must know how much is too much. If something is actually affecting my consciousness, material possessions are required for everyone. Basic material possessions are required. And how much is too much is different for different person. One must be very honest with how much is too much for him. So when one becomes addicted to material possessions, when one becomes addicted to possessing material comforts without endeavoring towards the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, without endeavoring towards the path of bhakti, which begins with hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord, then what happens is he becomes increasingly morose and agitated. He thinks that if I get this, I will be happy. And he may also get it, if it is there in his karma. But if he doesn't utilize it properly, if he doesn't utilize it in Lord's service, if he doesn't utilize it in performing devotional service, if he doesn't utilize it in improving his devotional service towards the Supreme Lord, then he ends up in being increasingly morose and depressed. So therefore, the result of benedictions, Brahma said, are very difficult for Hiranyakashipu to maintain, although he may bestow it. So this Durlabha word is used in this verse. If we see, 2 times it is used. Tate me Durlabha pumsam yan vrinishe varan mama tathapi vitaram yanga varan yadyapi durlabhan. Durlabha and Durlabha. 2 times it is used. That means they are very difficult to obtain and very difficult to maintain itself. So one must endeavor, but one must know how much is too much, and one must know, one must be very sincere for this. One must have sincerity of purpose in order to understand how much is too much for me. Tato jagama bhagavan amogha nugraho vibhu ujito suravaryena stuyamana prajeshwarai. Then he says, then Lord Brahma, who awards infallible benedictions, departed, being worshipped by the best of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, and being praised by great sages and saintly persons. Evam labdha varo daityo viprad demamayam vapo bhagavatyakaro dvesham vratur vadamanusmaran. That even Hiranyakashipu, thus being blessed by Lord Brahma and having acquired a lustrous golden body, continued to remember the death of his brother and therefore be envious of Lord Vishnu. So what happened? Because of his severe austerity, he got the darshan of Lord Brahma, and he also got many benedictions which were possible for Lord Brahma to give. But despite all this, he continued to be envious of the Supreme Lord. So what is the use of such a benediction and such an austerity if he is continuously being inimical towards the Supreme Lord? So therefore one must know that material opulence or material benediction cannot make one happy. However, if that same material benediction is used in serving the Lord, then it makes one happy. Then why it makes one happy? Because the Lord is satisfied. When you get some material opulence, if you use it in serving the Supreme Lord, if you use it in service of the Supreme Lord, how you can use whatever money you get? You can donate a little bit to the Supreme Lord, or you can donate it to the Krishna consciousness movement for propagating the preaching of Krishna consciousness. You can donate it for many purposes. You can donate it for prasadam distribution. You can use the money, or you can, there are many ways actually how you can use the material opulence. However, when it is not used in service of the Supreme Lord, here he wanted material opulence not to serve the Supreme Lord. He wanted material opulence in order to kill the Supreme Lord. So therefore, that material opulence could not give him any satisfaction. Those benedictions could not give him any satisfaction, and he was increasingly envious of Lord Vishnu. He could neither forget the death of his brother, nor he could stop being envious of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, despite his material benedictions. And what he had received so many powerful benedictions, which even probably the demigods also did not receive such benedictions ever. Neither they asked for it, but despite receiving so many material benedictions, he continued to be envious and he continued to remain insecure. So therefore, he was not at all happy. He was not at all peaceful. So 4, 5, 6, and 7 are combined actually. Read the verses together and then we will read the translation. I think someone is by mistake unmuted themselves. Savijitya disha sarva lokam chatrin mahasuraha devasura manushendra Gandharva Garu Toragan Siddhacharana Vidyadran Rishin Pitripatin Manun Yaksharakshata Pisachesan Preta Bhuta Patin Api Sarvasattvapatin Jitva Vasam Aniya Vishwajit Jahara Lokapalanam Sthanani Sahatejasa. So the translation is Hiranyakashipu became the conqueror of the entire universe. Indeed, that great demon conquered all the planets in the three worlds by his benedictions. The upper planetary systems, the middle and lower. Lokamscha Trin Mahasura. All the lokas, upper, middle and lower, including the planet of human beings. Gandharva Loka, the Garudas, the great serpents, Siddhas, Charanas, Vidyadharas, the great saints, Yamaraj, Manus, Yakshas, Rakshasas, Pishashas, and their masters, the masters of ghosts and bhutas. He defeated the rulers of all the other planets and brought them under his control. Conquering the abodes of all, he seized their power and opulence. So what happened here? With these material benedictions, he became the conqueror of entire universe. Practically, he conquered everyone other than Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. He conquered almost everyone. We will be seeing that in the subsequent verses also. He conquered the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, the Charanas, the Rakshasas, all the three lokas, wherever there are living beings. Everyone Hiranyakashipu practically conquered by his material power and material benediction. But as we have seen before, he was still dissatisfied. So therefore, one may want to achieve so many things separate from the Supreme Lord's interest in this world for our own selfish purposes. We may want to achieve so many things, but one must understand that unless our purpose is correct, unless our purpose is to serve the Supreme Lord, material opulence is not wrong actually, but material opulence, which can also be compared to Lakshmi Devi, must always be used in service of Narayana. When Lakshmi is used in service of Narayana, then one can be very peaceful. But generally, people do not want to worship Narayana. They want only Lakshmi. So therefore, Lakshmi will also be very pleased only when Narayana is being served. So to desire for material opulence or material facilities is not wrong. But then one's purpose must be correct. What is the purpose one wants that material benefit? What is the purpose that one wants such a material comfort? If the purpose is to serve the Lord, then definitely it is not wrong. If the purpose is to serve the Lord and one is actually not over-endeavoring for it, if one gets it if the material benediction comes on its own accord by the dint of our pious activities or previous karma or whatever may be, without over-endeavoring, and if it can be used in the service of the Supreme Lord, then such a material benediction is welcome. But see here, it is not something which came out of its own accord for Hiranyakashipu. He had to perform Ghora Tapasya for that. He had to perform such a severe austerity and put everyone into pain and trouble for that. And he had to practically torture himself also. And the result is he got material benedictions, and with that he conquered so many people, and still he remained continuously dissatisfied, envious and insecure, because the purpose itself is wrong here. Devodhyana Shriyajustam Adhyaste Smatripistapam Mahendra Bhavanam Sakshan Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Trailokya Lakshmyayatanam Adyuvvasa Kilardhimat. So Hiranyakashipu, what he did, he began residing in heaven now. He conquered everyone in all the three lokas, and he didn't want to reside here. He resided in the heaven with its famous Nandana garden, which is enjoyed by the demigods. In fact, he resided in Indra's palace, the most opulent palace of King Indra. The palace had been constructed directly by Vishwakarma and was as beautifully made as if the goddess of fortune of the entire universe resided there. So, with all the material benedictions, what he did, he conquered everyone, and now he is going and taking Indra's position there. Indra's position, Indra has been given that position personally by the Supreme Lord, but he wanted to assert basically the position of Indra also. So therefore he is going and taking charge of Indra's palace. He is staying in the palace of Indra. So generally, when we are not God conscious, or when we are not Krishna conscious, or when our purpose is not correct, or when we are not endeavoring towards the right purpose, then what happens is, with whatever material benedictions we get, we want to practically become the Lord of everything which we survey. We want to achieve so many things, come what may. See, if we see yesterday's verse, we were discussing about Hiranyakashipu. He was saying that I don't mind taking birth after birth after birth. Even if I die, it's okay. But in some birth, I want to become Lord Brahma. He was saying like that. So, when one is so much addicted to achieve material opulence, by forgetting one's purpose, by not endeavoring towards the right purpose, then what happens as a result is one wants to take over everything which he surveys. Here he took over Indra's position also. But again, as we have discussed before, despite him gaining control over so many things, over so many planets, over Indra's palace, over Indraloka, or the Swargaloka, still he always remained dissatisfied. So if our purpose is not correct, any amount of material opulence is not going to satisfy us. Only the Lord's service is going to satisfy, even though our material facilities may be very limited. Because when one is engaged in service of the Lord, one is actually attempting to water the root. So when Lord is satisfied, automatically everyone becomes satisfied. And so other people also become satisfied. When we practice devotional service, other people also become satisfied with us. We become satisfied, other people become satisfied. So therefore it is the highest Loka Kalyanam to take to this process individually and collectively, to the process of devotional service. So verses 9 to 12, 9, 10, 11 and 12 are here. Yatra vidruma sopana mahamarakatta bhuva yatra sphatika kudyane Vaidurya stamba panktaya yatra chitra vitanani padma ragasanani cha payapfena nibhasaya muktadama parichada pujatbhir nupurair devya shabdayantya itastata ratnasthalishu pashyanti sudati sundaram mukham tasmin mahendra bhavane mahabalo Mahamana nirchita loka ekarat reme bhivandyangri yuga suradibi pratapite urjita chandasasana. So what he did, we are able to see here. This is how the Swargaloka is actually, Indra's palace. The description is given here. The steps to King Indra's residence was made of coral. The floor was bedecked with invaluable emeralds. Now the description of Indra's residence is being given in this verse. The steps were made of coral. The floor was bedecked with invaluable emeralds. The walls were of crystal. The columns of Vaidurya stone. The wonderful canopies were beautifully decorated. The seats were bedecked with rubies, and the silk bedding, as white as foam, was decorated with pearls. The ladies of the palace, who were blessed with beautiful teeth and the most wonderfully beautiful faces, walked here and there in the palace, their ankle bells tinkling melodiously, and saw their own beautiful reflections in the gems. The demigods, however, being very much oppressed, had to bow down and offer obeisances at the feet of Hiranyakashipu, who chastised the demigods very severely and for no reason. Thus, Hiranyakashipu lived in the palace and severely ruled everyone. So, this was what he did. So this is the description of Swargaloka, and some analogical pictures are here actually. How the Swargaloka, how his palace was constructed, and how he is actually taking control of everyone, and how he is actually tormenting everyone, and how he very severely ruled everyone. So what was Hiranyakashipu's power? Let us see. All the demigods except Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu were forced to engage in his service. Other than Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, every other demigod was forced to engage in service of Hiranyakashipu. And they were afraid of being severely punished if they disobeyed him. They were fearful of him because he used to punish them very severely, even for very small reasons. And except Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, everyone else feared Hiranyakashipu. Tamangamattam madhunoru gandhina vivrittata tamrakshamaşeşa dishnyapa upasatopayana pani birvina trivistapoyoga balauja sampadam. So he says here, oh my dear king Hiranyakashipu, my dear king, Hiranyakashipu was always drunk on strong smelling wines and liquors, and therefore his coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerities in mystic yoga, although he was abominable, all but the three principal demigods personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands. So he was always in an intoxicated situation, intoxicated externally and intoxicated internally also with great pride. So he was always drunk and his eyes were always rolling. But because of his great austerities which he has performed before, all the demigods except Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations. Their worshipping him was out of fear actually. They brought him many presentations, not out of love, not out of respect, but out of fear that he may become upset with them. Jagur Mahendra Sanamoja Sastitam Vishwa Vasustum Bururasmadadaya Gandharva Siddha Rishayostu Vanmohor Vidyadarascha Parasasta Pandava Vidyadarascha Parasascha Pandava. So he says, Narada Muni is saying to Yudhishthira Maharaj, O descendant of Pandu, by the dint of his personal power, Hiranyakashipu, being situated at the throne of King Indra, controlled the inhabitants of all other planets. The two Gandharvas, Vishwavasu and Tumburu, I myself, Narada says that he even controlled Narada also. He controlled him also, Narada says. The two Gandharvas, Vishwasu and Tumburu, I myself and the Vidyadharas, Apsaras and sages all offered prayers to him again and again just to glorify him. So one must understand one thing very clearly here. Sometimes the Asuras become so powerful that they can engage even Narada Muni and similar devotees in their service. But that is only very temporary. It does not mean that Narada Muni has actually become subordinate to Hiranyakashipu. But the Asuras become so powerful sometimes that they even, they treat the devotees as their subordinate, but it will not happen for a long time. So it happens sometimes in the material world that great personalities can also be controlled by the Asuras. Similar thing happened in case of King Vena also. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur compares Hiranyakashipu's rule or his conduct to that of King Vena, whose story is described in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sa eva varna shramibhi kratubhir bhuri dakshinai ijyamano havirbhagan agrahit svena tejasa. So he says, being worshipped by sacrifices offered with great gifts by those who strictly followed the principles of Varna and Ashrama, Hiranyakashipu, instead of offering the shares of oblations to demigod, he accepted them himself. So he was anyway envious of the demigods and he wanted to simply enjoy. So he has accepted everything for himself. Akrishtapacha tasyasit saptadvipavati mahi tatha kamadugagavo nanascharya padam nabha. So he says here, as if in fear of Hiranyakashipu, the planet Earth, which consists of 7 islands, delivered food grains without being plowed. Without being plowed itself, food grains were given by planet Earth, not out of love, but out of fear. Thus it resembled cows like Surabhi of the spiritual world or the Kama Duga of heaven. The earth yielded sufficient food grains, the cows supplied abundant milk, and the outer space was beautifully decorated with wonderful phenomena. Nanascharya Padam Nabha. So the outer space was very beautifully and astonishingly decorated. Ratnakarascha Ratnaugams Tatpatnyaschohururmibi Ksharasidu the Kshaudra Dadi Kshiratodaka. So he says, by the flowing of their waves, the various oceans of the universe, along with their tributaries, the rivers, which are compared to their wives, supplied various kinds of gems and jewels for Hiranyakashipu's use. Out of fear, these oceans were the oceans of salt water, sugarcane juice, wine, clarified butter, milk, yogurt, and sweet water. Now, in order to understand this, one must refer to the cosmology, Vedic cosmology, which is given in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. How there are 7 islands in the Bhumandala, and how this whole Bhumandala is structured, this Bhuloka or the Bhumandala, how it is structured, one can refer to 5th canto. So therefore, one can just imagine Hiranyakashipu's power. He is not an ordinary demon. He was a very knowledgeable demon. He had performed such severe austerities. He had received such powerful benedictions. And just see how everyone, the whole, so many things in the universe have become subordinate to him. For example, the paddy fields, the oceans, the sky, the rivers, the oceans, everything has become subordinate to him out of fear. Such a powerful demon he was. So something to learn here is that come what may, come how much ever powerful materially one may become, if one's purpose is not correct. Let us say, take the example of Hiranyakashipu. He is extremely powerful. We just cannot compare the modern day demoniac minded people's power to his power. What can they do? They cannot do anything. What was Hiranyakashipu doing? He was practically, because of him, practically the whole universe was shivering. But still, despite having such power, because his purpose was not correct, he was always insecure and he was always envious. See, everyone is becoming subordinate to him, but is that giving him any happiness or peace or any security? No, it is only making him more and more insecure. So all these material benedictions, all this material power, if the purpose is not correct, then it only gives us more and more insecurity and fear, and ultimately lack of peace of mind. Shailadronibhirakridam sarvartushu gunan druma dadhara lokapalanam eka eva pratak gunan. The valleys between the mountains became fields of pleasure for Hiranyakashipu, by whose influence all the trees and plants produced fruits and flowers profusely in all seasons. The qualities of pouring water, drying and burning, which are all qualities of the three departmental heads of the universe, were all directed by Hiranyakashipu alone, without assistance from demigods. See, the valleys became the fields for pleasure for Hiranyakashipu. What is the quality of sense enjoyment he is having? Extremely high quality of sense enjoyment. It just cannot be compared to sense enjoyment of any other demoniac minded person in the modern world. The topmost level of sense enjoyment he is having. And then see how much influence he was having, how much power he was having. The qualities of pouring water, drying and burning, which are all qualities of the three departmental heads of the universe, were all directed by Hiranyakashipu alone. That means there are different departments in the universe to manage different, like for example, Indra manages the water, Vayu manages the air, and Agni manages the fire and burning. Indra, Agni, Vayu, these are all the different devatas. So Hiranyakashipu was doing all these tasks single-handedly. He was managing the water supply throughout the universe. He was managing the drying of water. He was managing the Vayu, the wind. He was managing Agni fire burning. He was managing everything single-handedly. So much of power he had. But again, as we have seen, it is all just increasing his enmity, increasing his envy towards the Supreme Lord. And it is making him more and more frustrated. So let us go through some of the points regarding Hiranyakashipu's power. The three modes act under the direction of demigods. So yes, we had already discussed this. He took charge of everything without assistance from demigods. Saitam nirjitakako ekarad vishayan priyan yatopajosam gunjano natripyat ajitendriya. In spite of achieving the power to control in all directions, and in spite of enjoying all types of dear sense gratification as much as possible, Hiranyakashipu was dissatisfied. This is the point we have been discussing throughout the past few verses. He was dissatisfied. Despite all these things, he achieved the power to control all directions, all the demigods. He enjoyed the sense gratification of the highest level, all types of dear sense gratification as much as possible. We become proud when we have some small material facility also. But just see Hiranyakashipu's position, how much he was enjoying. But constantly he was dissatisfied. Let us, although we have been discussing this, let us see this in a more detailed way. Because why was he dissatisfied? Because instead of controlling his senses, he remained the servant of his senses. So let us understand Hiranyakashipu's dissatisfaction here. He achieved all the power and benedictions which are possible, and he created an extremely comfortable situation for his senses to enjoy. We all do this many times to different degrees, not as much as Hiranyakashipu. Definitely, neither we are so powerful. So he created an extremely comfortable situation for the senses to enjoy. So we also do this. We also always plan to create some comfortable situation for sense enjoyment. He enjoyed all kinds of sense gratification to the highest degree. But what was the reason for his dissatisfaction again? Ultimately, although he apparently gained mastery, or he apparently became the master of so many living entities, including the demigods, ultimately he became a servant of his senses. He could not control his own senses. With all the austerity, with all the material benedictions which he had received, with all the extremely comfortable situation he had created, with all the sense gratification he enjoyed, with all his influence, with all his power, with all his command, ultimately, although he became apparently a master for so many people, he gained control over so many living entities, ultimately he could not control his senses. He became a servant of his senses. Now, he was completely controlled by his senses. And when one cannot control one's senses, one actually remains dissatisfied. Why? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yehi samparshya bhoga dukkhayonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. So Krishna says that the enjoyment which comes by the contact of senses and the sense objects. Now Hiranyakashipu had senses, and there were many sense objects which he had achieved due to his austerities, which he had achieved as a result of his material benediction given by Brahma. So the enjoyment which is the enjoyment which one experiences due to the contact of the senses and the sense objects, Krishna says about that kind of enjoyment in Bhagavad Gita. What is that enjoyment? The enjoyment or the pleasure which arise due to contact with the senses and the sense objects, they have a beginning and an end. One cannot experience uninterrupted pleasure. One cannot experience an unending pleasure due to sense gratification. Because whatever happiness comes because of sense gratification, whatever happiness comes because of senses and the sense objects, it has a beginning and it has an end. Krishna says, Adi Anta, Adyantavanta Kaunteya, Nateshu Ramate Buddha. So a wise man is actually not addicted to sense gratification. So because we have senses, some kind of gratification is required for this. But Hiranyakashipu had become a servant of the senses, completely had become a servant of the senses. So because of this, he could not get satisfaction at all. And he continuously remained dissatisfied and increasingly became more and more envious of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, Krishna says, an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery. That is the sense objects, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end. One may want so many things in life without understanding the purpose of life, without paying attention to the ultimate purpose of life. One may want so many things. Separate from the service of Lord, which is the ultimate purpose of life. So, the happiness which is derived from such things is very temporary, and it is simply a cause of misery because it has a beginning and it has an end. Suppose, separate from the service of the Lord, you want some material opulence. Say you want to buy a very big car or a very comfortable car. How much time can you enjoy with that car? If it is used in service of the Lord, it becomes meaningful. Otherwise, it simply becomes a source of dissatisfaction and misery when it is used for one's personal sense gratification. Because that is the nature of sense gratification. The nature of sense gratification is that it causes misery, it causes dissatisfaction, and it takes us more and more away from the purpose of life. So if you see, the entire modern civilization today is completely filled with dissatisfaction because one is not able to control one's senses. Because one is not able to control one's senses, what happens? He does not know what is right and what is wrong. When he is able to control his senses, he is able to progress towards the ultimate purpose of his life, which is to render devotional service unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. But if he is unable to control one's senses, then he doesn't know what is right and what is wrong. Then he tries to do so many things which are harmful to himself, which are harmful to others also. And thereby there is dissatisfaction individually and collectively, because the entire modern civilization is filled with people who are unable to control their senses, because this is never taught in modern education. Modern education never teaches you. Modern education never teaches one who is God. What is our relationship with God? Who are we? We are the spirit soul. Who is Lord? Lord is the Supreme Personality. So what is our relationship with God? So what should we do to revive our relationship with God? What is the purpose of life? So what is one's duty? All these things, are they taught in modern society? Are they taught in modern schools? Are they taught in modern universities? In fact, if you speak, they will deride you. So this is the reason we are having people in general who have absolutely no control over their senses, because they are absolutely unaware of the purpose of life. They have no control on their senses whatsoever. So individually and collectively, they are only creating dissatisfaction for themselves, dissatisfaction for others, and dissatisfaction for the whole society. And we are able to see how the civilization is progressing and how Mother Nature is also, showing the consequences of such a civilization, which is conducted by people who have no control over their senses. So therefore, Vedic system, the first thing which was taught in Vedic system was control of senses. So when Upadeshamrita, our Acharya, Rupa Goswami says, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jihva Vegam, Udaropasta Vegam, Yetan Veganyo, Vishaheta Dhiraha, Sarvamapi Mam Prativimsa Sishyat. Therefore, one who is able to control the urges of one's senses, one who is having sense control, that is control of Vacho Vegam, control of speech. Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, control of mind, control of anger. Jihva Vegam, control of tongue. Udara Upasta Vegam, control of belly and control of genitals. If one is having the control of senses, then he becomes qualified to become a spiritual master. Sarvamapi mam pradivimsa sishyat. He is capable of becoming the spiritual master for all the living beings on this planet. Sarvamapi mam pradivimsa sishyat. So therefore, if we see the present day, whether you take the leaders or you take the followers, everybody, entire modern civilization is filled with dissatisfaction because of one doesn't know what is sense control at all, other than the flickering pressure of immediate sense gratification, other than the immediate pleasure, they do not know the higher pleasure. But when one is actually engaged in, let us see, then who can always remain satisfied and happy? Now we have seen why this dissatisfaction is there. Dissatisfaction is there because one is unable to control one's senses. Then one may ask, then how to remain satisfied and happy? See, when one engages in sense gratification, there is some happiness, but that happiness is very small because it has a beginning and it has an end. And before one actually indulges in that sense gratification, one is hankering for the sense gratification. And immediately he gets it, if at all he gets it by his karma, or if he is destined to get it. And what happens then? He indulges in it, and it has a beginning and it has an end. How long can he enjoy and how much can he enjoy? And then immediately, when the senses when the senses are gratified, immediately it causes moroseness, and he is completely dissatisfied because he is not aware of the purpose. He is not aware the purpose of the senses. Now let us see who can always remain satisfied and happy. One who is able to control one's senses can remain satisfied and happy. How to control one's senses? One may ask. By engaging in the service of master of the senses. Rishikesha, the Supreme Lord is also called Rishikesha, the master of the senses. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. Rishikena Rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. So it is said, bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord. Hiranyakashipu engaged all his senses in deriving pleasure, and he was extremely inimical towards the Supreme Lord. So therefore, what happened with his senses? He could get only dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction, and what else? Constant anxiety, constant insecurity, constant fear, despite gaining control over everyone else. He gained control over everyone else, but he could not control his senses. So therefore, when one begins engaging one's senses in serving the Lord, if the same senses are used in serving the Supreme Lord, then what happens is one is freed from all material designations and one's senses are purified, and then one can become peaceful. So, Evam Aishwarya Mattasya Driptasyochastravartina Kalo Mahan Vyatiyaya Brahma Shapam Upeyusha. So he passed a long time, Hiranyakashipu passed a long time being very much proud of his opulences and transgressing the laws and regulations mentioned in the authoritative Shastras. He was therefore subjected to a curse by the 4 Kumaras who were great Brahmanas. So in this point, please give me some time. I will get back to you regarding this verse. So because I myself need some clarification here, but definitely I will get it clarified from other devotees and get back. Because it is said here, he was therefore subjected to a curse by the 4 Kumaras, or maybe after the class we can take it up because other devotees from the admin team also have joined. So maybe one of them is able to answer this. Tasyogra danda samvigna sarve loka saphalaka anyatra labda sharana sharanam yayurachitam. So everyone, including the rulers of various planets, was extremely distressed because of the severe punishment inflicted upon them by Hiranyakashipu. Fearful and disturbed, unable to find any shelter, at last they surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. So 22 and 23 are combined. Let us recite the 2 verses and then study the translation. Tasyai namostu kashtayai yatratma haririshvaraha yadgatvana nivartante shanta sannyasino mala iti te samyatatmanaha tamahita diyo mala upatastur prishikesham vinidra vayu bhojana. So it is said, They say here, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that direction where the Supreme Lord is situated, where those great purified souls in the renounced order of life, the great saintly persons go, and from which having gone, they never return. Yadgatvana nivartante. So Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita also. Natad bhashayate suryo, nashashanko na pavakaha, yadgatvana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. So he says about his Dhamma in Bhagavad Gita, that Dhamma does not require sunlight. Natad bhashayate suryo. It does not require sunlight for illumination. It is always illuminated. Nashashanko na pavakaha, yadgatvana nivartante tadhama paramam. So the demigods are also referring to the same abode. They say, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that direction where the Supreme Lord is situated, where those purified souls in the renounced order of life, they go, and from which having gone, they never return. Without sleep, fully controlling the minds and living only on their breath, the predominating deities of the various planets began worshipping Rishikesha with this meditation. So they all were completely tortured by Hiranyakashipu. They were completely distressed, and therefore they started praying to the Supreme Lord. Now, let us see what happened later tomorrow. So now, we can open for questions.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, can you please explain verse 3 once again?
Verse?
Third verse. Third verse.
Third verse, is it? Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Tato jagama bhagavan amogha nugraho vibho pujito suravaryena stuyamana prajeshwarai. Then Lord Brahma, who awards infallible benedictions, departed. He just departed from there. That's all. Lord Brahma departed from there.
Hare Prabhu.
Prabhuji, slide before 7.49. You skipped it.
Nine, 10, 11 and 12 are...
No, before that one slide which you had some notes. That one I want.
This one?
No, previous gen. Your notes. I forgot that. Before I could read, you skipped it.
This one?
No, your notes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
I think this one. I think, this one I think.
Okay.
Material, this one only.
Okay.
Durlabham, correct.
Any other questions?
Last time, before I could read, last time you skipped.
Yes,
Oh,
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes.
Pertaining to this sense gratification, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So sometimes we feel that, please don't think that it is silly or so.
No. Not at all.
Sometimes we feel that, okay, I like paneer, I like mangoes, I love to eat them. So does that also come under sense gratification? How much ever we offer it to Krishna, but
Yes.
ultimately we want to fill our belly,
Correct.
to fill our tongue.
It's a very practical question, actually. It's a practical question. See, everything must have a limit, actually. That is important. And some gratification of senses is okay, because ultimately we are not in a level where we are completely, we can remain completely aloof from this. One can offer to the Supreme Lord and one can take. That's not a problem at all. So anything, if it goes beyond the limit only, then it is different. If we like some, say for example, we like mango. So if we end up in eating, 4 mangoes per day, then it is going to spoil our health also. We may say we are offering to Krishna and eating. Of course, if we like mango, we can offer to Krishna and we can take. That's okay. But one must be conversant of one's purpose in life. If we eat 4 mangoes, it may disturb my devotional life tomorrow, right?
Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
See, let me finish this question. Is it clear, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So if I like something very much and if I take more quantity of it, ultimately I have a material body, right? I cannot take, I will offer everything to Krishna and I will take as much as I want. And if you do that, you may not incur any sin actually, but
Mm.
it may disturb your devotional life. Next day, you may not be able to wake up in the morning. You may not
Yes.
be able to chant your rounds, right?
And moreover, we have to think about others also. We have to share and
Exactly. So it should not take us away from serving the Supreme Lord. It should not take our consciousness away.
okay, Prabhuji. Thank
Okay.
you very much. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir. Another question was there. Yeah, please tell
Hare
me.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Actually, I just wanted to ask you, Hiranyakashipu was born in on earth only, no? Then
Yes.
how was he able to take the power and go to all the planets and destroy all the demigods?
Austerity. In fact, many yogis could also do it because
Okay.
of his austerity, Mataji. That's all. He was very, very powerful.
Hmm.
By austerity, one can do that, but one must know that that is not the purpose ultimately.
Hmm.
What will we do by taking control of all these things? I mean, demigods or enjoying so much opulence. If we are not able to progress towards the purpose, actual purpose of life, which is ahara nidra bhayamaitunamcha samanya deta pashubir samanam dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho dharmena hina pashubir samana. It is said. That means what? Ahara nidra bhayamaitunam. Eating, sleeping,
Yeah,
mating,
eating,
and
sleep.
defending. This is common even for animals.
Yes.
But what is the purpose of human life? Dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho. The human form of life is meant to understand what is one's dharma, what is one's purpose. So, yes, he could go, and many people also could go to many other planetary systems, but there is no use actually, because if you go to other planetary systems also, the only thing is there is better level of sense gratification there. A much higher level of sense gratification and facilities for enjoyment are there in the higher planetary systems. So he went there because of his austerities, Mataji. He was born here, yes, but he performed such severe austerities that he got those benedictions. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna,
Another question. Is it? Let me check. Yeah, please tell me.
Prabhuji, can you open 12th shloka once? I mean, 12th verse.
9, 10, and 11 and 12 are combined.
Okay, translation.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it not this? Okay, Prabhuji, it was mentioned, no, that Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they are also, I mean, worshipping Hiranyakashipu.
Your voice is not clear.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So I was asking that Lord Brahma and even Lord Shiva were worshipping Hiranyakashipu, no? Can you open that slide once?
Oh, yeah, next slide, Prabhuji. This one,
This one?
understanding power.
Yes.
Yeah. This one you skip. Prabhuji, power. Yeah. Except Lord Vishnu, Brahma and Shiva, everyone feared him. Okay.
No,
Fine.
Prabhuji, in 27th verse.
No, one by one. He wants to see this slide.
Okay.
Yeah. This one you are telling?
Yes. See, Prabhuji, here it is mentioned, no, in the 5th line, three principal gods, Brahma, Shiva, and even Vishnu. But why Lord Vishnu, Prabhuji?
See, Vishnu takes in charge along with the two demigods for maintenance. So in one sense, he is also called demigod. Because although he is the Supreme Lord, he is also coming to take charge of one department there. Okay?
So Lord Vishnu is a demigod.
Lord Vishnu is not a demigod, but he takes the post of a demigod in order to preserve. See, there are three. What is the Brahma's department is creation. Lord Shiva's department is destruction, pralaya. And what is Lord Vishnu's department? It is the preservation, maintenance. Although he is the Supreme Lord, he still comes and takes some ministry here, some department here. In that sense, he is called a demigod. He is not a demigod actually, But when it comes to this three principal functions of the universe, that is creation, maintenance, and destruction, he takes a role there also as one of his expansions. Sorry. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji, but
For example, one may be the
Lord
Prime
Vishnu.
Minister, but sometimes he can take some other ministry also, no?
Yes, Prabhuji, but why is the need for Lord Vishnu to worship Hiranyakashipu? He is the Supreme Lord, no?
That's why it is said here, except them. Although he was abominable, all but the three. Got it?
Mhm.
All except the three principal demigods worshipped him. That means everyone, excluding everyone but Lord Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. That means it's excluding Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu.
Oh,
Okay.
Prabhuji, I want one clarification, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
I heard that Krishna is superior to Vishnu in the sense that Vishnu possesses only 62 qualities, whereas
Yes.
Krishna possesses 64 qualities.
Yes.
Can you please clarify that?
You can read Nectar of Devotion and you can read Srimad Bhagavatam, Mataji. Yes, Krishna is the source of all incarnations, actually.
Because
Krishna
here we are talking
Krishna
about
Bhagavan Swayam. Yes, Krishna is the original Anadir Adir Ishvara Parama Krishna. All other forms of Vishnu, they are all either the expansions or different incarnations of the Supreme Lord. But Krishna, the 200 form of Krishna, Shyama Sundara, is the original personality of Godhead. So it is said that, Suta Goswami says, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. When he is describing about various incarnations in the first canto, he says that Lord Krishna is the Ete Shamsa Kalau Pumsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. So it is there in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. You can, I'll just take that shloka also for you. Yeah, Ete Shamsa Kalau Pumsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Yogam Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. Okay?
Okay, Prabhuji.
What is the translation says? All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on the planets whenever there is a disturbance caused by the atheists, and the Lord incarnates to protect the theists. So he's mentioned very clearly in Bhagavatam that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Okay?
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Yes. So can we stop here today? Okay, thank you. I thank you all for your hearty participation, hearty and enthusiastic participation. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, can I ask Arjuna superior or Hiranyakashipu? Obviously Arjuna, no?
Obviously Arjuna only. Arjuna was a devotee of the Supreme Lord.
Wait, Prabhuji, Bhagavad Gita, Vedvyas ji has written Bhagavad Gita, no?
Pardon?
Who has written Bhagavad Gita, Prabhuji?
Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Vedavyas has written, Krishna has spoken.
Written.
Vedavyas. Because
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita is a part of Mahabharata.
Okay. So, Prabhuji, here yesterday you were showing the slides, no? It was written Shri Hiranyakashipu Ruvacha, whereas
Okay.
in Krishna, there is no mention of Shri for Arjuna only, whereas he is a devotee and Hiranyakashipu is a demon.
No, I'm not getting your question. I'm not getting. Yeah, Hiranyakashipu Ruvacha means Hiranyakashipu said.
No, Prabhuji, it is written Shri Hiranyakashipu Ruvacha.
So what?
No, he's Vedvyas is giving respect so much for Hiranyakashipu,
Why
whereas
should we?
Arjuna, he didn't mention it, no. Whereas Arjuna is a devotee, but Hiranyakashipu was not.
Kranti Prabhu or Shyam Sundar Prabhu, can you please clarify this? If I am not wrong, my question is, Arjuna is a devotee, but in Bhagavad Gita it is written Arjuna Uvacha, but Hiranyakashipu is not a devotee, but in Bhagavatam it is written Sri Hiranyakashipu Uvacha.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Why Sri is mentioned for Hiranyakashipu?
Prabhuji, can I tell something?
Shyam Sundar Prabhu, he has unmuted. Wait, let us. He is one of the other teachers of
Okay,
this
Prabhu.
session. He will throw light on this. Shyam Sundar Prabhu or Kranti Prabhu, please.
I think I heard this in some of the previous lectures also. Like respect.
Prabhuji, you are not audible.
Shyam Sundar Prabhu, you are not audible.
I think I was hearing in one of the previous lectures. I think Sukadeva Goswami wants to respect Hiranyakashipu's original position as Jaya Vijaya also, and it was said that after this episode, when the Lord actually killed Hiranyakashipu, he sat on his throne. There also the acharyas say that the Lord was not feeling what do you call awkward to sit on something material, because this was actually accumulated by his dear servant. So I think in that mood, like Sukadeva Goswami is mentioning his name as Sri Hiranyakashipu, because the same thing was not mentioned with respect to Vena and other demons. You got it, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Is that satisfying, Mataji?
Prabhuji, I'm having doubt. We were once I had asked this question also that then Jaya and which ultimately this Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, all these were Jaya and Vijaya only, no? So then why don't we worship them? Because they are demons here in this material world. They are not spiritual in this material world. Then why referring to their spiritual forms instead of what their activities are in material world?
Shall I say, Prabhuji, or you want to say, Sushant Prabhu?
See, they had come here with a purpose. Okay. Jaya and Vijaya had come here in order to see the Lord actually wanted someone to fight with. And he wanted to show people in general what is the destination of a person having a demoniac quality. So therefore, understanding the will of the Lord, they actually wanted to facilitate Lord's will. That is why Jaya and Vijaya chose to come as demons to this earth. Okay. And secondly, what was your question?
He could have used for Arjuna also, no? Because Arjuna was a great devotee of the Lord.
See, it is in different times. There are so many eternal liberated souls. There are so many souls who are eternally liberated. But your first question was something different and I lost the flow. Can you come back to your original question?
Okay, Prabhuji, I was asking why Shri was used for Hiranyakashipu, whereas it was not used for Arjuna.
Why?
Shri was used for...
Yeah. That already has been clarified. Now, what is the next question here?
Prabhuji, one thing. She is saying her question and got only partly answered. Mataji, exactly why we can say why it was used for Hiranyakashipu, but regarding why it is not used for Arjuna, we need to clarify.
One more thing is, I understand it in one more way. See, actually Narada is reciting all this to Yudhishthir Maharaj. If you say, it is not actually Shukadeva Goswami who wrote it. Narada is telling to Yudhishthir Maharaj about the Hiranyakashipu Charitra and Prahlad Charitra, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
And Narada, he is very well aware that the Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha are Jaya and Vijaya respectively. And they were actually in Dasya. They were more like servants of the Lord. But Arjuna, he was in Sakhya.
Okay.
So he's like a friend to the Lord, but they are like servants. So probably, I will see, this may not be completely correct. So probably it is, addressing them in a more respectful way. That's all. But ultimately, Lord wanted to show through his confidential servants, Jaya and Vijaya, what is demoniac mentality and what is going to be the destination of a person with demoniac mentality. So they came just to explain that.
So Prabhuji, one in Dasya Bhav is higher to one in Sakya Bhav.
Mataji, let us not get into that. It is going away from the topic because there are many other participants also. So we can discuss that privately. Anuradha Mataji, you want to add something?
Nisarga, we will discuss in our class.
Yeah.
Why do we say that Arjuna was not addressed properly in Bhagavad Gita? In how many shlokas Krishna has addressed him with different kind of names?
It is Krishna, no Mataji, not, I mean, Vedvyas ji, no. Krishna can
Like,
use.
Krishna only, we will discuss this in our classes. And actually, Arjuna has been given lot of respect and lot of names. Dhananjaya, he's been called. So, yeah, Vedavyasa has mentioned that he has written there. Whatever Krishna spoke, he wrote there. What is the difficulty in that? Why can't we
Okay, Mataji, but he.
discuss this in our class?
Okay, Mataji.
1 minute, Mataji. I want to get the. Can you do one thing? You can message one of the speakers like Sushant Dwarkesh Prabhu with respect to your particular question, and is that the reservation with whether Arjuna was not respected properly?
No,
Or-
no, I have no problem that Arjuna was not respected properly, but Vedvyas ji has particularly used Shri for Hiranyakashipu and not used for Arjuna. That was my question. That's it.
Correct. So if that is the case, we have answered it partly, that why it is used for Hiranyakashipu. As to why it is not used for like Arjuna, we will get back to you on that after some research. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, can I add one point, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, please.
I think that Vedavyas ji, he thought that because of Hiranyakashipu, we are able to learn all these things, and he is not broad-minded like Arjuna. So if he is not given good respect, then he will feel bad. So that's
Mataji, let us not
we need to check
let us
it.
not speculate on this
Yeah,
topic.
we have to check it, Mataji. We
Yeah,
have to check
let
it.
us not speculate on this because these are words by Vedavyas ji and Sukadeva Goswami and Narada. So when they are addressing some people, they are very specific about what words they use. So let us do some research on that and get back.
okay, Prabhuji.
Oh.
One other Mataji was asking question.
In the is it there in the chat?
No, Prabhuji, she was asking before Nisarga.
Okay. Is she there now in the call?
I'm not sure who is she.
Okay.
They can post to one of the admin and we'll answer it in the group. That should be fine. Okay, Prabhuji, I think we can end the session now.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram.